What is PIP? It's the big question that everybody wants to know, and hopefully this presentation will tell you everything that you do need to know about PIP. My name is Virginia Tarani. I'm with Tarani Law LLC, and I am doing business in Maryland, D.C., and Northern Virginia. Most states have PIP coverage or some kind of PIP coverage, so this will be helpful probably in most states, but especially here in Maryland. PIP is actually personal injury protection. That's its actual meaning with the PIP. When you break it down, there it is. It's a type of auto insurance coverage. So this is when you're purchasing your coverage, you're going through your insurance company. They tell you, hey, these are all of the different purchases you can make. These are the things that it can cover. You've got bodily injury, you've got property damage, collision insurance. This is a form of insurance protection on your auto policy. It is not the same as liability or bodily injury insurance. Those are separate on your form, and they are paid for and clicked and checked separately from PIP. In Maryland and most states, it's known as PIP, but in other states like Virginia, it's actually called MedPay. And don't be fooled. In Maryland, you still have MedPay, but if you hear it in Maryland, it's usually related to a property claim or an insurance claim regarding someone's bodily injury while on your property. So it's a little bit different. They all have sort of the same effect, but work in the premise that it's protection, the personal injury protection, and then go from there. Start there with Maryland and DC, and in Virginia, start with MedPay, but this is focused on the auto insurance protections that it provides. All right, when does it kick in? It's no fault insurance coverage, and I say this first to say it is when you've been in a car accident and are injured. Okay, this doesn't kick in for property damage. It has nothing to do with property damage. It's personal injury protection. So you have to have been in a car accident. You have to have been injured. And it doesn't matter whether you're at fault or if the other person was at fault. We always hear, well, insurance will cover it if it's not your fault. Well, in this case, PIP kicks in if you've been injured. If you've been in a car wreck and if you've been injured, it kicks in. So it doesn't matter if you're at fault. It doesn't matter if the other person is at fault. You can still access this policy. And that's one of the reasons it's so important to have this policy protection. All right, what does it cover? PIP covers medical expenses. First and foremost, almost all PIP protection plans cover medical expenses. It pays for doctor's appointments, hospital visits. Anytime you have a medical provider and you have a bill, those bills can be sent to your auto insurance company and can be covered and paid for under this PIP plan. Your lost wages can sometimes be paid by PIP. They start with the medical expenses. Usually there's the prioritization and medical expenses is on top. But if you have more PIP left after medical expenses have been covered, or you have a particular insurance company that doesn't care which priority it sets, but whichever bill comes in first, you could have a claim for lost wages. You also could have a claim for funeral expenses if this is a wrongful death claim. If the injury was death, then you can put in for funeral expenses. That can be covered under PIP protection, as well as care expenses. So for instance, if you are immobile, you're left at your house, you have to pay for someone to come into your home to do some house chores for you, to help with any kind of bathing, that sort of thing. That's what's considered a care expense. And you have access to that. Any of these four things under PIP coverage, whether you're at fault or someone else is at fault. But be careful because not everything is covered under here, and not all of these amounts, if they're excessive, are covered. You have to check your plan. So how do you access it? You've been in a car wreck, you were at fault or you weren't at fault, you know it covers medical expenses, you know it covers funeral expenses, so how do you get it? You have to file with your own insurance company. This is what you carry for yourself. So when they say, oh, it doesn't matter what your insurance is, as long as the other driver has proper insurance, that doesn't apply here. This is your insurance company. You call them up, you tell your agent, hey, I've been in an accident and I need to find out if I have PIP coverage. If you have PIP coverage on your own policy, you have access to it. You have to fill out an application. It doesn't come automatically. You can't say, I have PIP, they owe me money, they're going to send me a check. It doesn't work that way. There's actually a form that you have to fill out, even though your insurance company knows you, even though your agent has your information. They can't fill out the form. You have to. So you have to take affirmative steps to actually get your PIP protection, and you want to make sure that you know that. You have to fill out the application, and it has to be done within 1 year of the accident. So if your accident happened on May 1st of this year, you have until May 1st of next year to fill out the application. But honestly, if you've been injured, you really need to fill out that application sooner rather than later so that you can actually get repayment for these expenses and these bills that are incurring. All right, does it affect my insurance premiums or coverage? This is the other biggest question that I get regarding PIP from most of my clients. They don't want to file for PIP. They say, no, I don't want to fill out the application. I don't want to file a claim with my own insurance company. They say, I wasn't at fault. The other driver was, so they should pay it and it shouldn't be on my coverage. It doesn't matter for PIP, especially in Maryland. Check your own state rules, but at least for Maryland, it does not affect your insurance premiums or your coverage. Under Maryland law, it's in the insurance code. It prohibits insurance companies in Maryland from raising your premiums or your coverage rates if you file a PIP claim. That's even if you were at fault. So you want to access this, especially if you were at fault and you were injured. This is really one of the only few ways that I know of that you can get any money back if you've been injured and it was your fault. Whether it's your fault or not your fault, it's not going to affect your insurance coverage or your premiums, at least if you're in Maryland. Again, check your state, but most states have at least similar provisions, if not exactly the same provision. It'll just be under Tennessee Insurance Code or whatever the equivalent is for that state. How much money can you get? It's not a lot. This is not bodily injury coverage where you can claim $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. Have an umbrella policy. Umbrella policies don't work for PIP. That's not what this is. It's usually $2,500 or $5,000. Those are the normal rates. If you have a good insurance company, you can usually get $10,000, but you have to ask. Most of these agents, they're not here to sell you PIP. They are going to try to get you to waive it. And if you don't waive it, they'll say, oh, get $2,500. That's the standard. Yeah, it's the standard, but that's assuming you only go to the ER and don't have a lot of tests done. Actually, don't get any tests done because it really won't cover it. You go to the ER once, you get diagnostic tests done, your $2,500 is already spent. So in my case, as a personal injury attorney in Maryland, I have $10,000. That to me is worth the premium that it costs to make sure whether I was at fault or not at fault that I have up to $10,000 to be able to put toward my expenses if I've been in a car wreck. So, how do I get PIP insurance? We figured out how to file a claim, how much you can get, but how do you get PIP insurance? You have to opt in. Just like the PIP application, it's not going to do itself. The agent isn't just going to say when you're signing up with insurance, oh, we'll just cover you under that. They will usually try to get you to waive it. They suggest it as a way for you to save money, lower your premium, lower your costs. Savings for a year. What are all of these commercials? Geico and State Farm and everything is, we'll save you hundreds per year. Well, this is hundreds or whatever it is that you don't want to save. You want to make this investment. Most people think they won't be in a car accident, and hopefully you won't. But when and if you do, you really want this coverage. So if you waive it, you can't get it, okay? If you're in an auto accident, whether it's your car or somebody else's car, you have waived it if you waived it on your own insurance coverage. So if you were in an accident where you were a pedestrian, you can get PIP coverage from the at-fault driver's insurance company. So this is where it swaps insurance companies. This isn't your own. This is finally the at-fault driver's company. But if you're a pedestrian, you were hit by someone else, but on your own insurance company, you waive PIP, you've waived it, even for the other driver. So who has access to it? The insured driver. They have access to the PIP policy. So if you've signed your own insurance coverage, you've opted in, you've checked the right box, you have access to PIP. Your family members have access to PIP, but they have to be a family member that resides with you in the same household. So when you put your address on the insurance company's information, that has to be the same address that your family member lives at when they get in a wreck and try to claim PIP. Someone driving your vehicle with your permission. My sister doesn't live with me. She lives in a whole nother state, but if she comes to me and drives my car, I have PIP coverage. If she gets in an accident while driving my car, I put in an application, or she puts in the application through my insurance company, and she can claim PIP through my insurance, assuming she hasn't waived it on hers. A guest or a passenger in the insured vehicle. So I put my nephews in my car and I drive them around. They are covered under my PIP insurance coverage. And a pedestrian that's hit by my car. So pedestrians are covered by the at-fault driver's insurance company. Who can't get PIP? As we said, if you've waived it, you can't get it. That is the main thing. Whatever you do when you're listening to this video, I hope that you call your insurance company, that you tell them immediately, I need to get PIP. Can you tell me if I've waived it? And if I have, how do I opt in? This is what you want to do. So don't waive PIP. You can't get it if you've waived it. If you've committed an intentional motor vehicle accident, this is called a tort, and you have a lot of other problems, but let's assume you can't get PIP. If you were committing a felony while driving, if you were doing a high-speed chase down the highway, you are not going to get PIP if you were injured as a result. If you're knowingly driving or riding in a stolen vehicle, most people this won't apply to, but every once in a while, especially younger drivers who have friends, they get into a wrong crowd, they end up in somebody's stolen car, it won't apply to them. But on the most part, most of you watching this video, this isn't really applicable. Now, this is where it does get applicable. If you are driving an uninsured vehicle, okay, so even if I have PIP insurance, normally, if I get in a car that isn't insured and I drive that car, it doesn't apply. So that's the one that will catch some people. Why get it? Guys, it's a payment of expenses. At least $2,500, even if you do that, that's $2,500 toward your medical bills. If it's $10,000, it's $10,000 toward your medical bills, and it's a possible double recovery. So if you're doing a settlement, if you've actually been injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, they're at fault and not you, then PIP can cover up to $10,000 of your expenses. But the insurance company, the other person's insurance company, still has to pay the same amount. So even if you've gotten $10,000 in PIP coverage because you have $10,000 in medical bills, the other person's insurance coverage through bodily injury claims also has to pay you the same $10,000. That's why it's really important. It's basically a double recovery. That's what I have to say about PIP. Drop a comment, leave suggestions, let me know what else you want to see, but this is one of the biggest areas of questions that I have with my own clients and my friends. What is PIP? Hopefully this lets you know. I'm Virginia Tarani, because you never need a lawyer till you do.